The manga began with a man relaxing during his break, sipping a soda while scrolling through an article titled Ways to Avoid Death in a Horror Movie. According to the first point, experienced girls often died first, especially during sex scenes. The second point warned against impersonating the killer as a prank, since that typically led to encountering the real one. The third warned that showers were absolute death zones, and the fourth advised never to talk about future dreams under any circumstance. The man nodded in agreement, internally affirming that each of those situations spelled certain death. At that moment, a colleague approached, apologized for interrupting his break, and asked if he could grab snacks for the rest of the team. The man agreed without hesitation. While heading back with the snacks in hand, he mused that, in reality, it would probably be overwork that killed him, not some horror movie scenario. He resigned himself to a night filled with overtime, when a poster for a slasher film caught his eye. The film, 18th Day Sacrifice, was being screened as a retro horror classic. Suddenly, his vision began to blur. He felt faint, and before he could react, darkness consumed him. In the darkness, he wondered if he had died. But a voice spoke, warning not to approach a certain lake. The voice explained that a group of 5 male and female university students visited a lodge by that lake to make summer memories. A massacre had taken place years prior at that same lodge, wiping out an entire family. The man questioned what was going on and why there was a godlike voice narrating events inside his head. The voice said that a mysterious killer had arrived that night, targeting the 5 students. Then it ominously announced the start of a classic from the golden age of horror. A girl woke up, lying on a bed. She was grateful to be alive and she wanted to take the food back to the office. When she touched her chest, she jerked up and she wondered why her chest was so soft. Then a status screen appeared in front of her. It displayed her new identity. Summer, 18 years old, Ricky's girlfriend, with a recorded history of 32 previous sexual partners. Confused and horrified, she questioned how an 18-year-old could even have that many partners. Then the realization dawned. She had been transported into the world of the horror movie 18th Day Sacrifice, and she was now one of the characters, Summer. Recalling the horror survival list she'd read earlier, she remembered that the slutty character always died first in slasher films. Holding her head in disbelief, she concluded that her character profile clearly marked her for death. As a person with 32 partners classified as a slutty character, a shirtless man entered the room, apologizing for the delay. He unbuckled his belt, making Summer scream. A window popped up identifying him as Ricky, who was her boyfriend and a university football player who wanted to have fun. Terrified, Summer scrambled off the bed. She begged him to stop. Ricky, misreading the situation, grinned and claimed her roleplay was turning him on. Her refusal only encouraged him more. As she tried in vain to push him off, realizing he was too strong, something caught her eye. Under the bed, a large, masked figure stared back at her. Both she and Ricky screamed as the killer flipped the bed and ran off, escaping through the window. Summer sat against the wall, trembling, and realized that if she hadn't gotten off the bed, she would have been killed while doing it, just as the trope predicted. Determined not to die, she vowed to follow the online list religiously. When their friends entered the room after hearing the commotion, they asked what was up with the screams and asked them to keep it down if they were doing it. Ricky, however, told them that there was a masked man with a machete. Wayne, the smartest one of the group, asked if it was really a serial killer. PJ, the prankster, wondered aloud if they had actually been attacked. Lucy asked if Summer was okay. She was the final girl. Summer remembered the term, final girl. It was the term for the lone female survivor in horror movies. Realizing Lucy was likely her only way out, she decided to stay close to her if she wanted to survive. At that moment, PJ pulled Summer aside, asking her to go with him for a second. He revealed a mask and asked her to help him prank the others. He said he would pretend to be the killer and Summer would be the victim. Summer's expression darkened. She grabbed his head and, in a chilling voice, told him he would never prank her again. She asked for the mask and after crushing the mask against her thigh, she handed the broken pieces back and warned him not to try any pranks. In her mind, she believed she'd successfully avoided a death flag, since imitating a killer for a prank would definitely lead to death. Rejoining the others, she returned to Lucy's side. Compared to the guys, she felt far safer with Lucy since she was the final girl and figured that, since she was now a girl too, the closeness wouldn't be an issue. Wayne then suggested they split up and search the lodge. Lucy and Ricky would search the first floor, PJ would check the second, Wayne would inspect the van, and Summer was told to explore the basement alone. Summer immediately protested. She pointed out the danger of splitting up, that they could get attacked one at a time, and added that a girl who couldn't defend herself shouldn't be alone. Wayne argued that this was exactly why Lucy would be with Ricky. Summer, frustrated, reminded him that she, too, was a girl, so she couldn't search the basement alone. Wayne, unimpressed, asked what the problem was. Wayne whispered to Ricky, asking him why Summer was unstable. Ricky proudly claimed that Summer was just irritable because they'd been interrupted midway. That enraged Summer. Lucy intervened, saying Summer had just seen a serial killer and was understandably shaken. She offered to accompany her, and that touched Summer. Although Wayne reluctantly agreed, it was clear he wasn't happy about it, which annoyed Summer. Wayne left the task of searching the basement to Lucy and Summer. Summer was frustrated that they still had to go to the basement and that no one seemed to care for her. Wayne asked everyone to meet back up on the second floor. As they descended into the creepy basement, Summer thought about how glad she was not to be down there alone. During their search, a nail ripped Summer's shorts and she wondered why a rusted nail was sticking out like that. Lucy, who was worried, asked if she was injured, and Summer joked that if the nail had been an inch closer, it might have been serious. Internally, she reminded herself that small injuries could quickly become fatal in horror movie logic. Suddenly, a knife fell and sliced through part of her blouse, exposing more skin. She sighed, realizing the world demanded her body be more exposed. Another sign it wanted her dead, just because she was a slutty character. Summer built a makeshift weapon from what she could find and explained to Lucy that something like a knife often ended up taken away and used against the wielder. Her own invention was meant to keep the killer away and knock them off balance so she could escape. She added that a mirror was added to help detect sneak attacks. Though she admitted it looked like junk, since she got excited and put random things together, Lucy praised her effort, saying she could never do something like that. Summer, touched by the compliment, felt that Lucy was the only one on her side. Lucy then suggested that Summer take a shower, but Summer imagined being killed while she bathed. So she declined. Lucy pointed out how sweaty and dusty she was and insisted. Reluctantly, Summer agreed, but only if Lucy showered with her. While bathing, Summer reflected that she was a terrible person, but being near Lucy gave her a sense of safety. Then Lucy called out to her, which frightened her. Lucy mentioned that she had a dream. Summer froze. She recalled that talking about dreams was another death flag. Lucy said she'd always wanted to be a singer. She said she wanted to perform in front of lots of people and that it was probably a weird dream to have since she was a boring person. She confessed that she'd never told anyone before, but felt that tonight's version of Summer wouldn't laugh at her. She asked if Summer could be her first fan if her dream ever came true. Before Summer could respond, the killer slashed through the curtains with an axe. They ran. Summer noted that the dream-sharing and shower combo practically summoned the killer. As they fled, she noticed Lucy was somehow fully clothed despite being naked moments before. She shrugged it off. Lucy was the final girl after all. Summer hurriedly tied a curtain around herself, hoping that staying covered would help her survive. They ran out of the lodge. Outside, they saw the van in flames. They saw that there was a storm all of a sudden. And despite it being summertime, the temperature had dropped to the point that they could see their breath. They also saw a strange creature looking at them from the woods. Summer questioned why none of the guys had come to help despite them making so much noise. She even wondered why, despite how long they ran, the killer was always one step behind. She again realized how determined the world was to kill her. Meanwhile, the boys who just spotted the killer shouted for Lucy to run. Summer, annoyed, reminded them she was also there, but they ignored her and shouted that Lucy should run to the barn. In the barn, Summer barricaded the door and noticed it was 7 a.m. Yet it was still pitch black outside. She wondered if the sun would ever rise unless the killer was defeated. Summer resolved to fight back rather than being trapped forever. She turned to Lucy and told her the world loved her, and that her dream would come true once the night ended. When the killer burst in, Summer stood firm with a crowbar. She shouted at him to come at her. As they fought, Lucy used the weapon Summer made to push the killer from behind. And Summer encouraged her to give it everything. Lucy shoved both Summer and the killer toward a wooden spike. Summer dodged at the last second, and the killer was impaled. As she collapsed to the ground, Lucy ran to her side. Summer asked Lucy if she was okay. She was still shaking but relieved that their plan had worked. She reminded Lucy to always watch for anything sticking out of the walls. Dawn finally broke and Lucy embraced Summer as she cried. Lucy suggested they head back to town and call the police. Relying on the boys was pointless, especially since the van was destroyed. They eventually hitched a ride from a man who ignored their disheveled appearance. During the ride, Summer promised Lucy that she would be her first fan when her dream of becoming a singer came true. Lucy thanked her and leaned against her shoulder, saying she was looking forward to it. Suddenly, Summer noticed the credits rolling in the sky. She mentally bid farewell to Lucy and the horrible world. But something was wrong. The world hadn't ended. The credits had rolled, yet the scene continued. She wondered if the killer was still alive. Then, the driver asked if one of them mentioned wanting to be a singer. Summer's heart sank. He handed them a business card, saying he was in showbiz. He claimed he saw potential in the two of them, survivors through and through. Summer heard a voice in her head once again. It announced that the duo, an average student and the campus's #1 slut, had been scouted. By sheer coincidence, they'd crossed paths with a legendary figure in the entertainment world. They were now headed straight for the brightest stage in New York. The voice declared that Final Girls, the Cinderella story sweeping the nation, was about to begin. Summer was horrified. Another movie was starting. But she clenched her fists and swore that she would survive whatever showbiz threw her way.